So for more than 15 years, pediatricians and the medical community have heard reports that in some people, consumption of high fructose corn syrup triggers cough-associated airway hyperreactivity, chronic bronchitis, and asthma, yet the link between the two remains medically unrecognized and unresearched.
Even though pollution rates and smoking rates are going down, asthma rates are still going up. There are scientists that say something else is wrong, but they don't know what.
Researchers report that 10 to 30% of individuals cannot properly absorb fructose.
We also know that fructose consumed in excess of glucose, as occurs in HFCS, transport differently than sugar.
The high fructose corn syrup industry would like you to believe that HFCS is just like sugar, although scientists would say that it's different because it's absorbed differently in your body than sugar.
Despite the alarmingly high rates of fructose malabsorption in adults, very few studies have been done to assess the condition in children.
The little research that has been done suggests that 44% of children cannot properly absorb fructose. The highest risk group is children under 4 years of age.
Recent efforts to update the health effects of high fructose corn syrup Wikipedia page to include links to the malabsorption studies of fructose of the 80s, 90s, and 2005 resulted in the links being deleted within hours.
Even though scientists have reported such high fructose malabsorption rates, in 1996 the FDA reaffirmed its decision to certify high fructose corn syrup as a generally recognized as safe food.
This gave the food industry the green light to add high fructose corn syrup to a great number of foods. Over the past 30 years, the consumption rate of high fructose corn syrup has skyrocketed.
Independent laboratories have tested foods with high fructose corn syrup. And what they found is that the foods contain 65% fructose, not the 55% as advertised.
Researchers also say fructose is 10 times more reactive than glucose.
These are likely some of the reasons the FDA said no to HFCS being rebranded as corn sugar.
While the adverse health effects of fructose malabsorption have remained off the medical and scientific radar, more recent research linking it to chronic disease and symptoms of metabolic syndrome and hypertension has prompted some companies to begin to include words like does not contain high fructose corn syrup on their labels.
Because of steady improvements in air quality, asthma rates should be going down, not up.
Asthma researchers suspect that there's something else in the environment driving up the rates of asthma, but they just don't know what it is.
Average per capita consumption of high fructose corn syrup in the U.S. is now about 1 pound per week, every week. That translates into a 300% increase from 1980 levels.
Today, more than 7 million kids suffer from asthma. That means that 1 out of every 10 kids has asthma.
Alarming as these rates are, they're even higher among black children. In 2009, 1 of every 6 black children had asthma.
That means that 17% of non-Hispanic black children have asthma, which is the highest rate amongst all racial and ethnic groups.
Not only are the asthma rates highest in black children, the incidence and prevalence asthma rates in black children continue to rise faster than any other group.
In 2005, 8.9% of children in the United States had asthma. In 2007, 29% of the kids with a food allergy also had asthma.
Rates of asthma in adults are similarly staggering. More than 26 million adults suffer from asthma.
The medical costs due to asthma amounts to more than $56 billion annually.
You've just heard of case reports linking consumption of high fructose corn syrup with asthma, and in fact one of those case reports is of our family, our daughter. We learned of that link more than 15 years ago. She was a little over 1 when her symptoms began, and it took us a good 3.5 years to figure it out. We learned of the link through a rigorous food elimination diet. And what was very alarming then and continues to be now is that no matter how hard we searched, no matter where we searched, we couldn't find any scientific evidence that would link the two. Yet we were able to control her symptoms by way of ensuring that her diet was free of foods containing high fructose corn syrup. And while we were incredibly thankful that we were able to figure it out to ensure our daughter's well-being, what's remained or what's weighed very heavily on my mind for a very long time is the possibility and or the likelihood that there are many others like her, particularly children like her, who are suffering from the same sensitivity but are unaware of it. So with the goal of putting a biochemical face to how it's possible that you can consume high fructose corn syrup and have it activate the immune system, whereas when you consume sugar, you don't observe the same symptoms or are not observed. How is it possible? Because in fact, sugars don't elicit an immune response. At least that's conventional wisdom. Proteins do. So I embarked on a course of study to put a biochemical face to the link, and I just completed that goal this past May, having earned a Master's of Science in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. I immersed myself for years in the study of fructose, all that is known about fructose. And the hypothesis that emerged is the possibility that in some people, elevated levels or unabsorbed levels of fructose in the intestines, in the digestive tract, could create a situation wherein the reactivity of fructose modifies dietary proteins, transforming them into digestion-resistant fragments that go on to become antigens or allergens or immunogens that could travel to tissues of the lungs and trigger the symptoms that we observed. So scientists who reviewed my work have confirmed the scientific merits of the hypothesis. My advisor has strongly encouraged me to not let the work sit on a shelf and collect dust. So in keeping with that goal, the next steps are to secure funding for research. This will move us towards a better understanding of the role of high fructose corn syrup in autoimmune reactivity and asthma. Turns out that traditional routes to funding have proven incredibly difficult. So I am bringing the project to crowdfunders like you. Please help get this funded. So in closing, I want to just say thank you for listening. Thanks for your support. So for more than 15 years, pediatricians and the medical community have heard reports that in some people, consumption of high fructose corn syrup triggers cough-associated airway hyperreactivity, chronic bronchitis, and asthma, yet the link between the two remains medically unrecognized and unresearched.
Asthma researchers suspect that there's something else in the environment driving up the rates of asthma, but they just don't know what it is.